Good day, and welcome to an exclusive preview of the Advanced Strategic Communications Certificate Program. As Robin mentioned, my name is Tiffany Bellardi, and I'm the Marketing Manager here at RAPS. In today's webcast, we will provide an overview, introduce you to our distinguished faculty leaders, and invite them to share key program details. We will cover the program structure, what it entails, and how you can become a part of this exciting program, along with hearing from a couple of our graduates. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to our program faculty. Our first faculty member is Nancy, an expert in professional development for government and business professionals in regulated industries. She serves as an adjunct professor at USC's Alfred E. Mann School of Pharmacy and has also taught at George Washington University. Nancy currently teaches at FDA staff colleges and district offices. Previously, she was special counsel for the Advanced Medical Technology Association and received the Vice President Gore's Reinventing Government Hammer Award. Along with the FDA Commissioner's Special Citation, she began her career as an attorney with the U.S. Department of Justice, handling FDA enforcement cases. Additionally, Nancy is a retired commander of the U.S. Navy. Our next faculty member is Richard DeRicio. Richard develops and presents training for regulatory affairs and quality system professionals. He began his career at FDA, supporting field operations and managing inspections of medical device and pharmaceutical manufacturers. Later at CDRH's Office of Compliance, he reviewed compliance actions and served as a sterilization sciences expert. Richard led global clinical, quality, regulatory, and government affairs teams at Abbott, J&J, Covidien, Pfizer, and others. Richard also served as VP of Medical Health Services for Tuve Sud, overseeing CE mark approvals for North American manufactured medical devices. Moving on to round out this trio of experts is Roseanne Milikian. Roseanne leads a global regulatory affairs team overseeing the development and life cycle management of medical devices for cataracts and glaucoma. She began her career at Abbott, combining regulatory affairs with research science, and now manages global regulatory approvals for Johnson & Johnson Surgical Vision's largest business franchise. Roseanne is dedicated to talent development, supports business development, and participates in international device standards meetings. She also frequently presents to health authorities on novel technologies and clinical trials. In a few moments, we will introduce you to our past certificate holders, Megan and Faiza, and they will share their insights and reflections on what they learned in the last certificate series. But for now, let's review the program and overview. So the Advanced Strategic Communications Certificate Program consists of 4 training courses, each lasting 3 hours. Participants are encouraged to attend all 4 courses. Each course will be recorded, and if a participant misses a session, they can access the recording. The virtual classes are designed to engage participants and foster behavior change through interactive elements, encouraging critical thinking throughout each session. Attendees who complete all 4 courses will earn 12 credits. Registration fees are shown here on the slide. The availability of this course is limited due to its highly specialized content and the personalized attention provided to each participant. So to ensure an optimal learning experience and foster meaningful interactions, we have set a cap on enrollment. This allows us to maintain a high standard of instruction and ensures that each participant receives the support and guidance that they need. So moving on to the program learning objectives. Using polls, chat, and breakout rooms, the participants will employ their critical thinking skills and collaborate with their peers, analyze case studies, solve problems, practice communication techniques that they can apply immediately after class. Each course has its own objectives, but after completing the course, Attendees will be able to develop clear, concise communication strategies for crisis situations, predict how various department heads will react to regulatory challenges, craft presentations that preemptively address stakeholders' concerns, secure agreement on alternative solutions that align with organizational goals, discuss methods for communicating critical information to regulatory staff in a manner that maintains a department positive culture, and also analyze benefits versus risks for different courses of action. So you're probably asking how you can get a certificate for attending these courses. So here are the details on how to do that. Once you attend and complete each course, you will be asked to take a 10-question true or false knowledge check. You will be given 3 chances to receive a passing score. A passing score is 8 out of 10 correct responses. And then once all 4 courses are complete and you have received a passing score for all 4 courses, you will receive your certificate. So now it's time to talk with our faculty. Nancy, Richard, and Roseanne, tell us about the certificate program.
Okay, I'd love to do that. And the program consists of, as we said, 4 classes. Now, something to remember is when Richard and Roseanne and I discussed the class, we wanted to make it really interactive and we wanted the people to learn from others. So we limited it to people, senior regulatory officials. I think it's senior managers, is that right? To be able to take the course. So when people interact together, they can learn what one company is doing and other company is doing, and they can tell stories about what happened to them. The program consists of these 4 workshops. The first one is avoiding disastrous mistakes when briefing high-level agency officials. Then we're going to get into getting to yes, mastering the art of presenting regulatory positions to both staff and stakeholders. Then we'll talk about the third session, the little-known secrets for building effective teams that embrace diversity and open communication. And the last course is avoiding landmines when communicating sensitive information. So Richard, will you tell us about session 1, avoiding disastrous mistakes?
I'd be happy to, Nancy, and thanks to all of you who are joining us for this sneak peek. And one of the things that's a key here is to have regulatory affairs professionals like us be seen as players in the organization. And effective communication is so important for that. Now, one of the things we've done is we've included case studies that span pharmaceuticals and medical devices to give you challenging situations where you and the others in your breakout groups will use your experience from your different work sessions and settings to come up with solutions and then learn how to communicate those to others. Now, the people to whom you'll communicate could be senior management, it could be your own staff, it could be your peers, and it could be key opinion leaders and regulatory officials. Now, the first case study is about a company that has a therapy, a treatment that is unique to the company. It's better than other competitors, but there is a component issue that arises. It could actually take them off the market. And so you will be working with your team to how to convince regulatory authorities that you can safely keep this on the market, while at the same time deciding what paths to take in terms of dealing with the component issue and how to effectively communicate with those groups that I mentioned. And this would be a perfect segue to Nancy, because so much of this is about effective communication. Nancy?
One thing that we've all noticed, and I especially have noticed in my career, is that when we're talking to top management or talking to important people, sometimes we get nervous. You might be in a meeting with FDA and they ask you a question on the spot. And what you do is you ramble, you go on, and you form your thoughts as you talk. And this is very disturbing to the person who has to listen to this. Also, when you're talking to your CEO or talking to your boss, you might go on. And I ask a question at the class, and I have to say, I used to do this. Many people, when they're talking to their boss or they want something, they go on, and they keep talking until the boss will agree. And I could see when I did this, my boss got annoyed. And then years later, when I got to be the boss, when people did it to me, I got annoyed. So what we did here is we created a template called What, So What, Now What? And we had the theory that if you can give your message in 30 seconds under these 3 bullet points, what, so what, now what, that would give the person to whom you're speaking just enough information. Then they can ask you questions and have a dialogue. So in our course, what we do is we teach you the template. We divide you into groups of 3, and you get to practice it, and you get peers in a very safe situation. You get responses from your peers so you can be better next time. Another thing that we found out is what people are very interested, and there was much more interested in the class than we even realized is about executive presence. People want to know about executive presence. And when I did some research, I found out that most people have no idea about how they come across. They want to come across as poised and credible, but they're not sure whether they do that or not. So what we did is we analyzed the factors that go into executive presence, which are body language, how you sit and how you stand, your brand, how you come across, how you present problems to management. And we tell you about research, we show you some pictures, and we have discussions about how to improve your executive presence. So that pretty much sums up our first class. And let's go to our second class, Getting to Yes, Mastering the Arts of Presenting Regulatory Positions to Staff and Stakeholders. And Roseanne is going to tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. So in workshop 2, Getting to Yes, it's an exciting course because it really walks you through challenging situations. Now, as you advance in your regulatory career, one of the most critical skills you'll develop, as Richard alluded to, is that ability to communicate complex regulatory issues. And in workshop 2, we'll analyze a situation where you as the regulatory professional has received some challenging news about a submission that you filed with the FDA, and it could significantly impact the goals and commitments the organization has made. And so what we'll do in this workshop is analyze the audience and understand the various perspectives and the diverse groups that you'll be communicating to, and how you're going to modify your language, modify your presentation to address what the audience is interested in hearing and how you can communicate that news effectively. And it's a situation that is, of course, going to concern multiple functions. So we'll consider backgrounds of your audience from commercial, R&D, supply chain, and quality who might react differently to the bad news, and how you can prepare your responses to present a clear message that's direct and has actionable goals. You'll break out into groups and how you role play these various functional heads, how they would respond to the feedback, and then come back as a group and report back what that message is going to be and how you're going to craft the communication. This exercise will help you frame your message and anticipate questions, giving you the tools to deliver clear solutions-focused briefing in this type of critical situation. We'll shift gears in this workshop to tackle different challenges, and this is with respect to budget, how we manage regulatory affairs expenses during company-wide cost reduction efforts. And this is something that senior leaders within regulatory will have to manage. You manage your company's budget, your functional budget, and sometimes we have to make difficult decisions. Richard, why don't you take us through that next topic of how we're going to discuss making challenging situations when it comes to budget?
Thanks, Roseanne. I think those of us who have been in the business a while have had to face cases where, whether it's the board or the CEO or the head of finance says, we have to reduce our expenses. It could be because a company is in the process of executing a recall. It's the cost of bringing products back. It's making additional replacement product. It could be because a key submission is delayed. Maybe product was manufactured, ready to launch, and all of the financial projections were based on approval. So what we want to walk you through is how to manage this, how to get ahead of this if you're put in this situation. You know, regulatory affairs is typically a smaller group. And worse than that is people don't necessarily understand what the elements are that are indispensable. It might be a contractor. It might be staff members who have key subject matter knowledge and experience, or it could be someone that has a special relationship with the agency. So we're going to walk you through with a scenario that has a certain budget, a certain amount of reduction that's required. And then as a group, you will come up again with your experience on what elements you would have to face, probably a reduction in, prioritizing those. And the thing is, oftentimes, because other groups have more to give, R&D might stop working on a project and use fewer of their consultants. In operations, they might be able to not have a second shift operating. We have less to work with, and we're going to help you prepare for that very uncomfortable discussion. Now, the next session is the little-known secrets for building effective teams that embrace diversity and open communication. Let's face it, the whole diversity thing has been quite political. The DEI initiative, diversity, equity, and inclusion, has taken on a political reason, but diversity is such a key element of a workplace. You know, on their website, the recruiting company Indeed listed 8 definitions of diversity. Some of them are the ones we think of: race, ethnicity, gender. But they listed 5 others. Among those are age and physical ability. So if we're going to suggest that you look at your organization, look at people that are top performers, whether it's in regulatory or outside, and recognize the contribution that the people make, and then we will give you tips on how to develop a diverse workplace. And you'll do this in your work groups so that when you get back to your organization, you'll make sure that the organization has the ability to cast a wide net so that, for example, it might be hiring somebody that is young, and people say, well, maybe he doesn't have or she doesn't have enough experience. But sometimes people early in their career can make terrific contributions. And that goes too for people that are a little bit older, I might add to. And then the other is physical ability. We have seen cases where a person that might have a particular disability brings knowledge to product development so that the devices or the drugs, pharmaceuticals, biologics that we're developing are better applied to their use, for example, for diagnostics equipment. So that will be, I think, something that will be important for you to take back to your organizations. And now let me turn this back to Nancy to talk about communication.
Well, at an early age, my parents told me the world is not a perfect place. And as I grew up, I found that out true. The other thing I'm going to tell you, and you'll all agree, is our work cultures are not a perfect place. And we would like to say there's extreme harmony and we all work together and we think with one mind. That's not what happens. What happens in companies is that each department in many instances are silos. And instead of thinking about the organization, the department, and me, many times in these work silos, they think about me, the department, and the organization. So when there is an issue, because the different departments were in silos and the different people have their own personal agendas, it's not so easy to get consensus. And we give you a problem where, we first start off and we say, we break up the people into different organizations. So you guys will be finance, you will be R&D, you will be sales and marketing, you will be quality. And we'll talk about the agendas or what's important to the bottom line for that department. Then what we have to do is we've created a case study where FDA mandates that you're going to have to, they want you to recall a product, or they're telling you to recall a product. And then we give everybody, we break the people into small groups, and each person has a role. One person is assigned marketing with a secret agenda. One person is the president. One person is QA. One person is RA. And they have to decide how they're going to respond utilizing their agenda. And the people get very excited. And when we did this in person, the noise in the room was just amazing because everybody really wanted to be as persuasive as possible. At the end, we compare what's going on in the different groups. And it's fascinating to see how the different groups differ. They're not at all in consensus. Everybody is different depending on the personalities of who played that role. People really appreciated it, and it's lots of fun. And the takeaway from that is when you are in these discussions, if you are aware of the agendas of the other people, you can talk to them before, or you can take all sorts of remedial action to mitigate what they're thinking. And I think that has helped people a lot when they go back to their organization. Our last session is really my favorite session, and it's called Avoiding Landmines When Communicating Sensitive Information. And the reason it's my favorite session is I started my career as a prosecutor, and then I was a defense lawyer, and I was very successful as a prosecutor, winning. Now, the reason I was very successful, I'd like to say I won all my cases, but we were only prosecuting people who were guilty. So if you didn't win your cases, you really had trouble. But anyway, I like to share the secrets of lawyers. Most of the people who take our courses are regulatory and they really play fair. And I have to say, you might think lawyers don't always play fair, and people just don't understand it. Like one common fallacy is they like to write confidential on all their documents and they think it's going to be protected. Now let's do a knowledge check. Richard, you've been in the field for many years. When you were in your companies, did your companies think that perhaps confidential would make the documents confidential?
I think that was a common feeling among individuals, at their working level, that was a convenient way to protect whatever they had written.
Okay, and how about Roseanne? Again, I'm sure you guys have trained the people now, but at the beginning, before you got to your organizations, was that the feeling of the people?
That was the feeling. And if you had the confidential at the bottom of a slide or bottom of a document, you felt like it was protected.
All right. Let me explain what confidential, just right now, what confidential means. It don't mean anything. If you think it's confidential, the world doesn't think it's confidential. The only time you have a confidential document is when you're communicating with your lawyer. Then you have attorney-client privilege. But if Richard and I, or Richard and Roseanne, work in the same company, and I write confidential, they're under no obligation to keep it confidential. This is really important because when people give documents to FDA and they write confidential, 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 FDA doesn't necessarily keep those documents confidential. So being under an illusion that it is really not helpful. I mean, we should all know. So we teach you about confidential. We want you to go back to your companies, talk to them about confidential. Additionally, where people in our society today get into most trouble is writing their personal emails or texts, and they think it's private. It's not private, and we give you instances where people get into real trouble, and it's embarrassing to you and your organization. We start the course with documents are like diamonds. They are very precious, and they last forever. And I'm sorry, but Roseanne and Richard has heard me say this so many times because it's in every course. Now I'm going to do another reality check. Roseanne, did you memorize my statement, and do you think about that?
I do, a lot. Yep.
And how about you? You think documents are like diamonds?
Absolutely, definitely.
So we're going to drill that into you. So hopefully you will never write another document without thinking about that saying, because you can really get into trouble. Another thing that we talk about is you get an angry email with full of inflammatory words. And what do you do when you get that angry email? Do you reply? Do you talk to the person? And what we do is we give you a case study where you decide the best course of action. And then me from the lawyer's perspective, and Richard and Roseanne, who's been in the business for a very long time, we give our perspectives about how you might handle it. The nice thing is that this will occur probably during your career sometime, and you'll have all these very helpful perspectives on how to handle the situation. The last thing that we talk about is inflammatory words. There's an insurance company in the medical device industry that went through litigation, and they found all the words that people get sued over in product liability cases. And we tell you what they are. So for example, I recommend that people they get a component that's out of spec. I don't want you to write defective, and I'd rather you not write out of spec. What we tell you to do, if you want a 12-inch board and it's 11.9, if you write defective and you use that product, your component, you're going to have a lot of explaining. If you say the component was 11.9, just write the facts of what was wrong and let the person make the judgment about whether or not it's defective. Then it will save you a headache later. So we teach you all these words, and we hope, we figure out other better words to say. So from my perspective, it was an honor to work with Roseanne and Richard, and I think the information is very sensitive, and I think you've heard about all these stories, and we hope that you'll join us. So I guess now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it back to Tiffany, and she's going to tell us what other people have talked about during the course. Tiffany. But you're on mute, Tiffany, so you have to tell us.
Thank you, Nancy, Richard, and Roseanne. Yes, so let's move on. So I'd like to introduce you to two of our certificate graduates from the program that took place earlier this year. We have Faiza Ahmed and Megan Madej, and we would like to ask you to share two ways that attending this program has changed your process, behavior, or what you've gained insights as a result of the program. And Faiza, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Is everybody able to hear me all right?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. See some familiar faces in the program that I attended. Hey, Nancy, Richard, Roseanne. I did attend this program earlier in the year. And although I have 15 plus years of experience in the regulatory space, I still learned a lot from this program and gained practical tips and useful insights. The biggest strength of this program for me actually was to hear from a diverse group of industry experts. You know, you don't really get to hear that in some of the other programs. So I'll quickly share two insights that I gained from my participation in this program. The first gained insight is about the choice of words. Before the workshop, I'll be honest, I didn't think a lot about word choices when I was communicating sensitive issues to leadership or to my teams. After practicing the inflammatory word exercise that we did in quite a bit of detail in one of the sessions, I'm definitely more intentional about using language that kind of calms people down rather than escalate emotions and situations. And the second insight that I wanted to share is about pre-selling ideas to your allies before a critical high-stake meeting. Before the class, I used to kind of get stressed about delivering difficult or critical updates because I sometimes wasn't sure how to frame them. After practicing and learning the importance of pre-selling ideas before a call and recruiting allies, I've actually started implementing that. I build support ahead of time, so my proposals are more likely to gain traction, and I do feel more confident sharing tough news with stakeholders. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's move on. Megan, would you like to share?
Yes, hello. Hopefully you can hear me all.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So yeah, I would really echo Faiza's comments and saying what an excellent program this was, an opportunity to interact with so many different regulatory professionals. Couple of the key things that I learned and use today is the what, so what, and now what method has been incredibly beneficial, especially during audits when I'm interacting with our various regulatory authorities. This approach has allowed me to articulate my responses and actions of what we're going to tackle very clearly and concisely. Additionally, I have also found that the STAR method has been invaluable when presenting regulatory challenges to senior leadership, right? It allows me to be able to communicate in a direct and succinct manner, especially when you're not always providing positive communications, if there's a delay with a submission. I also use this method with my team meetings, and my team has actually embraced it and they utilize it as we bring up different regulatory issues that we want to face. And I have them present using this method. So it's also been a great opportunity for them to continue to build confidence in presenting for myself, but also for them. And it leads to very respectful debates, even when opinions differ. So just like to really thank Nancy, Richard, and Roseanne for their fantastic interactive training that they provided to me earlier this year, and all those great communication tools, because all four of the courses were really amazing and very helpful for me to continue to grow and develop. So thank you.
Megan, one of the But Megan, one of the things we do is we teach the people, and we want the people to teach the other people. Can you give us what the story? I would love to do it, but maybe we'll do it together. Can you give us what the STAR? Can you tell us what the STAR stands for, or would you like me to do that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it is this situation here is the S, and the T is for the task or challenge. The A is action, and then the R is the result or implications.
So what we do, thank you, Megan, and that's so wonderful. Thank you. We make everybody a teacher, and so we don't really tell you that you're going to be a teacher, but we want people to go back to their classes. And now, Megan, you've taught all these other people, so thank you for helping, not only as a commentator but a teacher too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, for sharing. We have one more graduate who wanted to share but was unable to attend this webinar, so I'm going to read what she shared with us. And this is from Natalie Damru. So she said, this program was one of the most impactful professional development experience I've had in my career. Each session provided not just theory, but practical strategies I could immediately apply in my role. The presenters were engaging experts who broke down complex regulatory communication challenges into clear, actionable steps. I left the workshops with stronger skills in presenting to senior agency officials, communicating sensitive information with confidence, and defending regulatory positions effectively. The emphasis on integrity, accountability, and clarity was a powerful reminder of the responsibility we carry as regulatory professionals. The case studies and peer collaboration were especially valuable. Working through realistic scenarios helped me sharpen my critical thinking in real time and gain new perspectives from colleagues across the industry. I also walked away with concrete tools like the STAR method, crisis communication techniques, and strategies for building diverse, effective teams aligned with organizational missions. She said, what impressed me most was how quickly the lessons translated into real-world results. For example, I recently led a meeting with the FDA where I felt more confident in structuring my responses and anticipating objections. I've also applied these techniques internally, crafting clearer, more concise email communications to our executive team, which has led to faster decisions and stronger alignment. Even my department manager has become more engaged in discussions after I began using the STAR method to frame key initiatives. So she says, I would recommend this program to any professional who wants to strengthen their leadership, communication, and overall impact in the regulatory space. So now we are to the point where we're going to dive in and have our faculty start answering some questions. And I believe that we've already had a few come into the Q&A. Is there a schedule for the next year for those classes? Yes. So if we just go to that next slide, actually, they'll be up on the screen. The next question, what level of experience do you think is suited to this course?
Nancy, do you want to respond to that?
I believe I think we're asking for senior managers or equivalent. So if you were in academia or if you were in consulting, and help me out. I think it was like we'd like people to be in the field for 8 to 10 years. Is that correct? Robin, is that correct?
That is correct.
Any other questions? Are there any other questions at this time? Is there spring session later? Or I believe you're asking is if there is going to be another session later?
I can answer that. This is Robin with RAPS. Yes, we do plan on doing at least one more certificate program in early 2026. And hopefully we will also do a second program towards the third or fourth quarter of 2026. That information, dates for 2026 will won't be provided until probably November of 2025. But we do have this upcoming program that starts October 3rd and goes through November 7th and is available for registration.
Thank you, Robin.
Tiffany, we don't have any more questions, but we'd like to use this. We'd like to use this meeting as feedback about people's needs. So I wonder if we could ask everybody in chat just to write one area that regulatory officials or they could improve on, and we can see, we can tell you whether or not it's in the class. And if it's not in the class, maybe we can build another class. What do you think? Well, could we do that, Tiffany?
A great idea. Yes, please add into the chat and I can start sharing.
That would be great. So we won't mention your name. It's just, you're just giving us information. And so hopefully we gave you a little information. You'll give us some information today. So if everybody could write one area that they think regulatory affairs professionals would help them, we'd love to hear about that. And who's the bravest person to write the first thing?
And while we're waiting for that, we do have another question here. How is this program different from the Effective Communication series?
I can answer that since I give it. The effective communication deals with more basic areas of communication. We go into oral, we do speaking. We have a course there about how to be heard at meetings, where you go to a regular meeting and people don't listen to you. So we give you 10 techniques about how you can get other people to buy into what you're saying. In that course, we also do more on practicing things. So it's just at an earlier level. This class goes into the problems that managers have. The other class goes into the problems that people new into the field have.
That's great. And we just had another question come in. This is a really good question. How would this program help an introvert become a better communicator? I think a lot of us feel similar. So I'd also like to hear the answer to this.
And I'm sorry, I have strong feelings about it. We're all going to answer, but this is what I'm all about. So the whole idea was, I don't like to be called out. I don't like to talk in front of people, but I don't like it. I don't like to learn stuff in front of lots of people, but I need to know. So the way we have structured our breakout rooms is there are 3 people. So it's 2 other people. It's not intimidating to talk to 2 other people. Well, some of these are 4 or 5, but it's 4 or 5. It's a very safe environment. Sometimes when we practice a little talks, it's 3 people, but if we're having a conversation, it's with 5 people. The other thing that we do is we change the leader of the group, so everybody gets to be a leader and a chairperson, and it's good practice. So that's my perspective. Richard or Roseanne, do you have anything to add?
I do, because I think one of the things that you teach are things like posture. And, learning how to adopt a posture that communicates that a person's in control and confident and ability to communicate and also is competent, I think is part of that. And I think, as you mentioned, Nancy, I think the practice is essential. But I think, I remember in my career having to teach on something, and this was very early in my FDA career as an engineer, going out into the field and training on subjects that maybe weren't in my core competency. It's not a great feeling. So you do a lot of research and you teach, but I think what you're helping us on in this course is how to make those presentations and feel confident about it. Maybe Roseanne, you might have some comments as well.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I think that many of us on the phone can probably identify as an introvert. And there are aspects of this type of presentation, Richard, to what you just mentioned, can make presenters feel very nervous. And the course is excellent in that it gives you these tools to craft your message in a way that's easy for you to remember and can communicate to a broader audience. So having those sort of portions of your message crafted, rehearsed, and simplified for your audience will give you that confidence to deliver the message, in addition to the other things that Richard mentioned with respect to posture and tone of voice and gestures. So I think that the way that the course is designed, it'll give you the opportunity to learn the skills to craft your message and then also to practice it with peers.
I wonder if I could jump in on this next one because it's something near and dear to my heart. I mentioned early on, we want to make a senior regulatory position, professional player in management in your organization, whether a company or other type of organization. In my experience, I know that compared to the time spent in my office as a regulatory, or if I were doing clinical or quality, the CEO typically spent a lot more time in the finance head's office, the head of R&D, and the head often of clinical research. And oftentimes they were the areas, sales and marketing was a key one, that were of great interest to him from a business standpoint. But think about it. We're the organization that gives the company products to sell. So I think this idea of business acumen, and Nancy and I actually talked about that as a course subject, is understanding the way the business operates. And part of what this course is, and I think this has been touched on by people that have been in the course, is the idea that you can pre-sell ideas. We talk about meeting with different functional heads so that you can understand what their expectations and needs are of regulatory affairs, and also what we want to communicate as what's important to regulatory and how we're supporting the business.
Yeah, and I think no one's going to be your advocate as much as sort of you are, right? With respect to how you communicate and what your value is to the organization. So networking across different functions is such an important skill, and we'll teach you that in the course of how exactly as Richard mentioned, how you pre-sell your ideas and develop your allies so that others within the organization truly understands the value that you as a regulatory professional bring to the business.
Thank you. Nancy?
Yes, November, the session in November, the question disappeared. I think we like to explain, or maybe Tiffany, or that we give you a quiz and everything is recorded. So if you take the report, if you listen to the recording, that's fine. And we want to make sure that, the certificate is worth something. So after each section, there's a 10 true false questions that we would like you to pass. And if you don't pass it the first time, you get 3 tries. So I think everybody should pass it. We want everybody to get certificates. So you can listen to any of the ones that you missed. We'd rather you come because we're learning from you too, but we understand situations in life happen.
Thank you. And Katie, I hope that answered your question about as a leader supporting regulatory professionals, business acumen, and speaking the business language is a skill a lot of people struggle with as they get more senior. And the next one here, interestingly, let's see here. The topic of repetitive message and regulatory submissions, pros and cons. She's interested in a topic of repetitive message and regulatory submissions, pros and cons.
Yeah, I wonder if that question is related to content of submissions and how you should frame them. That might be another course, Nancy, that we can pull together.
For fun.
Early in my career, I was impressed at certain people in the sales organization. I think I shared this in the last session. And I would ask, because I had to do a lot of selling at FDA, of why our team should get a product approved. And also, I was very competitive. I wanted, we were in very competitive segments of the business, and I wanted us to get approvals before the competitors. And so I asked them, and one of the things they told me was, you have to be a resource to the company. And this salesperson said, I don't go in and sell the product the first couple of times. And I think this was at a company where we were making very high-tech electrophysiology catheters. And he said that they would go in, he would try to do some training for the principal person there and the staff, and then maybe on the third call, he would sell. And this works so effectively with FDA is that you need to train them, to make them feel comfortable. I know reviewers at FDA have a broad class of devices they look at, and if you're bringing something that's really novel and very complex, whether it's a pharmaceutical, a biologic, a diagnostic, or medical device, they need to be trained. And I think that outreach is important, and asking them as another one of the tips that I got is find out what the customers want and make it easy for them to get it. And we'll be talking about things that align with that, how to communicate with regulatory officials so you understand their expectations, their concerns, so they feel comfortable that your product will be approved and it is safe and it will continue to be safe in the marketplace.
And Richard, to your point, the exactly what you just said in terms of communication can be applied to your regulatory filing as well. So I think about it a lot when we're writing submissions to the FDA is my message clear? Is the story I'm telling something that they can follow? And it works in both realms, right? In your communication style to team members and to the FDA, and also in your submission content.
Yeah, great point. Great point.
The advantage of the class is that Richard, Roseanne, and I have diverse backgrounds, very diverse backgrounds. And so you have access to 3 points of view or 3 specific areas of expertise. And I think I can say safely that we probably have, and I don't mean to embarrass anyone, over 100 years of experience among the 3 of us. Anyway, if there are issues that you have, I'm sure the faculty, we're available and you could make appointments for us and we'd be delighted, to answer your problems, answer your political problems, answer quietly, quiet political problems in the company I'm talking about, not national politics. We have to make that clear. And we'd be delighted to talk to you or help you in any way you can so you would have access to us throughout the course.
I kind of wish we were starting this Friday. I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to the next session.
Good. Well, thank you, Nancy, Richard, and Roseanne, and graduates for all of the information. I wanted to share with everyone that if you pull up this QR code, you can register. And a reminder, the early bird deadline is the 2nd of September. So be sure to register before then to save. But also, we're probably going to sell out prior to the 2nd of September. So please don't wait. If this is something you want to do, I would register sooner rather than later. We did sell out with the first program that we did, and we are close. I think we have less than 10 spots left, and we've had quite a few people register for this webinar. So there's a lot of interest. It's a very amazing program. And last chance, if you have any other questions, please add it to the chat. But if not, we hope to see you in October.